In the U.S. in 2020, DEI was a $3.4 billion industry.
Is it effective?
No. In fact, it seems to be doing worse. It seems to be making people less likely to interact with people who are unlike them, because it's like a minefield now. After a training where you hear things about microaggressions, if you ask somebody what they do for a living, somehow that's racist. Why would you take a chance?
I better not talk to Eric because I might say something wrong.
Precisely.
You have to have an environment that reinforces this training, and you've got to have accountability. People have got to know what their role is after the training is completed.
All white people are racist.
Some trainings are just divisive and dumb.
I believe that white people are born into not being human.
This is extreme, I take it.
It is extreme, but it's becoming more of the norm.
We consider this
A prerequisite
for positive social change.
As a guiding principle,
it impacts our decisions
at every level.
We must confront
the drivers of inequality
and redesign systems
with those who've been historically marginalized.
The thesis of this training was try to be less white. They're talking about arrogance and things like that. The point is to demonize the other side as much as possible. It's not about data, it's about a power grab.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Anna, and you're watching Anna Speaks Out. So we've got some pretty great news to talk about today. The Washington Examiner just reported California sued by doctors over implicit bias, DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion training requirements. Dr. Marilyn Singleton, a Los Angeles anesthesiologist, was quoted saying, "The implicit bias requirement promotes the inaccurate belief that white individuals are naturally racist. This message can be detrimental to medical professionals and their patients as it creates an atmosphere of suspicion and animosity, which goes against the fundamental principle of doing no harm." I thought that was a really good point that they made about doing no harm being a foundational value of the medical field. Seems like that should go without saying, but of course, at least here in the United States, doing no harm was completely done away with by the medical field as a whole. I'm not speaking for every individual, but decades ago, back when abortion was first legalized in the United States, of course, abortion is the exact opposite of doing no harm. It is murder. So I refuse to even call abortionists doctors because it's just not the case. They are paid assassins, really. And then here in the United States and beyond, there are also so-called doctors doing bodily mutilation just for the sake of encouraging and affirming mental illness rather than helping the people to deal with that mental illness. And of course, I'm referring to gender reassignment surgery. So is it really any surprise that there is another legally forced version of doing harm being put upon the medical field? And I'm so glad that they're pushing back. But let's continue on with the article. The lawsuit argues that California physicians are required to adopt and espouse an ideology, arguing there is no evidence-based consensus that trainings intended to reduce implicit bias are effective. It cites evidence showing the trainings can cause counterproductive anger, frustration, and resentment among those taking the trainings. I love to see people standing up for the rights of white people like this and pushing back against the nonstop victimization of Western kind. Of course, the general consensus in modern society in the Western world is that white people, and especially men, should just sit down and shut up and do whatever non-white people say. And DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is marketed, you could say, as something that makes sure that every type of person is included and treated equally in the workplace and beyond. But if you look just a little bit past the surface, it's actually just a thinly veiled attempt at making sure that there are less and less white people in every organization possible. So it's really great to see somebody voice that out loud and push back against it, and I hope that this inspires a lot more people with influence to do the same thing. Thank you again so much for being here today. Since you liked the video enough to make it all the way to the end, don't forget to click the thumbs up and share with somebody else who would also find it interesting. Leave your comments below and we'll all have a conversation. And if you really enjoyed it, check out the description for several different ways that you can support. Have a wonderful night, afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time zone you are in, and I will see you next time. Bye.